we have something a little bit special for you today on Tech Radar. It's the automotive hotness that is Jaguar's new F-Type Roadster. This is the base V6 model. Of course, that's a base model in F-Type terms. It still means 340 horsepower supercharged V6, all aluminium body, all aluminium chassis, all aluminium suspension, rear wheel drive. Yeah, it's quite a package on paper for a base model. Let's take a quick look at the design. Horribly subjective topic, design, but there is at least one area of the car that I think is interesting in objective terms, and that's the rear. Jaguar's design director Ian Callum said that the rear was the part of the car that he was most proud of, or was his favourite part of the design. When I first heard that, I was totally baffled, because in pictures it looks kind of truncated and awkward. In the metal, yeah, completely different story. It's much more kind of sculpted, almost fluted the way the rear wing goes into the boot panel. Anyway, works much better than I ever thought it would, the rear, when you get the car in front of you. Another little design detail, these flush-mounted door handles. These days door handles can be pretty chunky. It used to be the fashion to try and make door handles as visible as possible. That's what Jaguar has done here, complete with little brush metal finishing panels, Jaguar branded. Yeah, it's a nice touch. Finally on the outside, let's take a quick look at the brakes. £58,000 car, this F-Type base model, £62,000 with very modest options on the car we have here. But I can't help but noticing that it's sliding calipers all round on all four corners. You might expect with a car of this value, which is a very heavily kind of sports driving orientated car, to have nice monoblock multi-piston calipers. To be honest, we've driven the car in North Wales, are some of the best roads in the country, and the brakes in power terms are, you know, they're pretty much flawless. So it doesn't appear to make any difference on the road. Next up, driving technology in the new F-Type. Most of that's located around the center console here. Pretty obviously the gear selector for the 8-speed automatic gearbox. It's a ZF unit, which is being pretty widely used in the car industry at the moment. It's a torque converter gearbox, which is interesting in a sports car like this, so therefore not a dual clutch gearbox. This is the dynamic mode selector, has a sort of low grip mode, sort of winter and low grip mode. Push up for that, and then cancel it downwards. And then this is the dynamic mode. Pretty predictable functionality, sharpens throttle response, quickens up the gear changes. It has the gearbox hold gears longer in automatic mode, but you can also shift over into manual mode, and then you can either use the gear shift to shift up and down. They've got the right way around, Jaguar, thank God. Forward for down, pull back for up shifts. And then there are also paddle shifters on the steering wheel, which they work well, but it's notable that they're sort of rubberized plastic, so they are reasonably tactile, but yes, you might have expected them to be a nice alloy blades like you get in some cars today. There's a few other bits and pieces regarding to driving technology down in the center console. There's the sports exhaust button, so it's a flap in the exhaust system that opens above 3000 RPM in standard mode, and when you hit the sports exhaust button, it's open all the time. Then we've got the traction control button, which is pretty standard. You click once for 1 second and you get see track DSC there, which is a sort of intermediate level of traction control where a little bit of slip is allowed. And then if you hold it down for, I think it's 5 seconds, it'll show on here. Yeah, so there you go, DSC fully off. Now this ZF gearbox, torque converter, as I mentioned previously, not dual clutch. Does that matter? I think overall it does. It doesn't spoil the car. Full throttle, sort of maximum tap shifts are, yeah, they're pretty crisp. Response to the paddle shifts on the steering wheel, if you're using those, that's quick. Is it as quick as the latest dual clutch boxes? Probably not, but it's certainly not laggy. Okay, the shifts equally are not quite as crisp, not quite as dynamic as the best dual clutch gearboxes, but you know, they're pretty sharp, they're responsive, you get the throttle grips on the downshifts. Multimedia and infotainment in the new Jaguar F-Type. Functionality wise, the key thing to understand here is that this is pretty much what I would call a static system, so there's limited connectivity or data sharing with other devices. Basic functionality includes Bluetooth connectivity for the phone and also for audio streaming, and then general audio playback and navigation. This system in this car also has, I believe it will have a DVD video playback. Doesn't have the optional TV tuner. Personally not sure how important that is, but what this system doesn't have is it doesn't have the sort of internet connectivity, apps, functionality in that area. Navigation's worth a quick look because two halves to this. The good bit is the actual what you see on the screen, so that's the mapping, and then the little guidance prompts that pop up on the right hand screen in terms of telling you what lane to be in on at junctions and on multi-lane roads or on roundabouts. All that works really well. You're not going to make too many mistakes in terms of following the guidance that it does give you. What isn't good is the actual routes it chooses. So if you drive on any familiar route that you do regularly, typical way of testing the routing is to drive a route that you know and then ask it to navigate you to that route. It makes some fairly odd decisions in terms of the routes that it chooses. Final point to note is, as I mentioned earlier, because there's no internet connection, you know, this is a pretty static system. There's no Google searching, so the POI is just a sort of, you know, memory stored thing. No traffic data, IP traffic data. There is RDS TMC, standard over the radio, RDS radio traffic data, so you do have some traffic data. One final point on the F-Type we didn't catch earlier, the boot on the F-Type. Such practical concerns may be tedious, but as you can see, it really is pretty restrictive. Very shallow for the main part of it. There is a slightly deeper section down here with some tyre inflating kit, but I'm not quite sure how Jaguar conspired to make the boot so small. I know it's a cabriolet, but yeah, that could be the most significant limitation of the car overall for some prospective buyers. But hey, let's not dwell on that. We've had the fabulous new F-Type for a week. It's an absolute delight to live with. Sure, the infotainment system has a few shortcomings in terms of internet connectivity and smartphone integration. Yeah, the boot's a bit small, but it looks great, it sounds even better, the chassis is a peach. It's the sports car everyone's been waiting for from Jaguar. Yep, quite simply, it's a winner.